Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the Self in all beings. We begin today's satsang with a prayer by Srimati Sapna Ganesh. This will be followed by the chanting of Muktaka trayam.
दक्षिणामूर्तिसारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमां रमणाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये आङ्गिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववाङ्मयम् आहार्यं चन्द्रतारादि तं नमः सात्विकं शिवम् ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय. Namo Ramana to everyone.
एकमक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथं हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् ह्यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता वा पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम् देहं मृण्मयवज्जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तदभावसुप्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्ट्वात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं. Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Upadesa Saram by Ashwini.
नमो रमण. कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलं कर्म किं परं कर्म तज्जडं कृतिमहो ददौ पतनकारणं फलमशाश्वतं गतिनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितं नेच्छया कृतं चित्तशोधकं मुक्तिसाधकं कायवाङ्मना कार्यमुत्तमं पूजनं जपश्चिन्तनं क्रमात् जगत ईषदी युक्तसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिबृहद्देवपूजनम् उत्तमस्थवादुच्चमन्दथ चित्तजं जप ध्यानमुत्तमम् आज्यधारया स्रोतसा समं सरलचिन्तनं विरलतः परम् वेदभावनात् सोऽहमित्यसौ भावनाभिधा भावनीमथ भावशून्य सद्भावसुस्थिति भावना बलात् भक्तिरुत्तमा हृत्स्थले मना स्वस्थता क्रिया भक्तियोगबोधाश्च निश्चितम्। नमो रमण।
Namo Ramana. We will now have two songs from Ramananjali Sangeetam. First one will be presented by Srimati V.Radha. The second song will be presented by Revathi Shankar.
Namo Ramana to all. Today I will be singing a song written by Dr. Sarada. The music is by Sri Dileep Simha. அன்பு வடிவமே எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே, அன்பு வடிவமே எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே, ஒரு முறை நினைத்தாலுமே ஒரு முறை நினைத்தாலுமே துன்பம் தீர்ப்பானே துன்பம் தீர்ப்பானே, அன்பு பொழிவானே அன்பு பொழிவானே, இன்ப நிலை தருவானே இன்ப நிலை தருவானே, ஒரு முறை நினைத்தாலுமே துன்பம் தீர்ப்பானே அன்பு பொழிவானே இன்ப நிலை தருவானே, எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே, அன்பு வடிவமே எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே. கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சம் கண்களிலே கருணை கண்டாயா கருணை கண்டாயா, அஞ்சல் அஞ்சல் என்று சொல்லும் சிரிப்பை கண்டாயா சிரிப்பை கண்டாயா, கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சம் கண்களிலே கருணை கண்டாயா, அஞ்சல் அஞ்சல் என்று சொல்லும் சிரிப்பை கண்டாயா, கருணை கண்கள் கண்டாயா கருணை கண்கள் கண்டாயா, புன் சிரிப்பை கண்டாயா புன் சிரிப்பை கண்டாயா, கருணை கண்கள் கண்டாயா புன் சிரிப்பை கண்டாயா, பொன்மேனி கண்டாயா பொன்மேனி கண்டாயா, திருப்பாதம் கண்டாயா திருப்பாதம் கண்டாயா, பொன்மேனி கண்டாயா திருப்பாதம் கண்டாயா, பேரருளின் அழகை கண்டு மனமுருகி மகிழ்ந்தாயா பேரருளின் அழகை கண்டு மனமுருகி மகிழ்ந்தாயா, எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே, அன்பு வடிவமே எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே அன்பு வடிவமே எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே எங்கள் ரமண தேவனே. நமோ ரமண.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Bhagavan is the master of right placement. He has placed the right things in the right place and always gives the right things at the right time for all his devotees, for all of us. He doesn't have anything apart from the self. So everything happens right. There was one game which we used to play when we go for any picnic or something. We used to uh, tie our eyes, blindfold ourselves, and then have a board, and we need to write, complete the figure. There might be an elephant's figure, and we need to write the tail or draw the eyes, something like that. The game itself shows that we are blindfolded, so we don't know the right thing. But Bhagavan knows everything. He is the self. So he cannot be blindfolded at all. So he puts everything in the right place at the right time. This is what Muruganar Swami says. Muruganar Swami has mentioned Vaitapattu. Every aspect of life has been placed in its place correctly. He has placed compassion in mother, knowledge in father, truth in the Vedas. He had kept newness in oldness. He has kept pearls in a beautiful shell. He has kept truth in the tongue, speech, and he has kept dharma. He has kept brightness. He has kept the happiness in dharma, and he has kept love in the heart. And that love is life, and that life is only Bhagavan. So I present to you a Kannada translation of Muruganar Swami's Vaitapattu, beautifully translated in Kannada. ತಾಯಿಯಲಿ ಮಮತೆಯ ನಿಟ್ಟ, ತಂದೆಯಲಿ ಜ್ಞಾನವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ, ವೇದಗಳು ನಿಜ ನುಡಿ ಒಲುಗೈದ ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ತಾಯಿಯಲಿ ಮಮತೆಯ ನಿಟ್ಟ, ತಂದೆಯಲಿ ಜ್ಞಾನವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ, ವೇದಗಳು ನಿಜ ನುಡಿ ಒಲುಗೈದ ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ, ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ನೇಹವ ಇಟ್ಟ, ಸ್ನೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಳನು ಇಟ್ಟ, ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ನೇಹವ ಇಟ್ಟ, ಸ್ನೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಳನು ಇಟ್ಟ, ಬಾಳಿಗೊಂದು ಅರ್ಥವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ವೆಂಕಟ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ರೂಪ, ಬಾಳಿಗೊಂದು ಅರ್ಥವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ವೆಂಕಟ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ರೂಪ, ವೆಂಕಟ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ರೂಪ. ತಾಯಿಯಲಿ ಮಮತೆಯ ನಿಟ್ಟ, ತಂದೆಯಲಿ ಜ್ಞಾನವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ, ವೇದಗಳು ನಿಜ ನುಡಿ ಒಲುಗೈದ ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ, ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ನಾಲಿಗೆಗೆ ಸತ್ಯವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ, ನ್ಯಾಯಕ್ಕೆ ಮೆರುಗನು ಕೊಟ್ಟ, ನಾಲಿಗೆಗೆ ಸತ್ಯವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ, ನ್ಯಾಯಕ್ಕೆ ಮೆರುಗನು ಕೊಟ್ಟ, ನಂಬಿದವರಿಗೆ ಅಭಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟ, ನಂಬಿದವರಿಗೆ ಅಭಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ವೆಂಕಟ ಆನಂದ ರೂಪ, ನಂಬಿದವರಿಗೆ ಅಭಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ವೆಂಕಟ ಆನಂದ ರೂಪ. ತಾಯಿಯಲಿ ಮಮತೆಯ ನಿಟ್ಟ, ತಂದೆಯಲಿ ಜ್ಞಾನವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ, ವೇದಗಳು ನಿಜ ನುಡಿ ಒಲುಗೈದ ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ, ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ಹಳತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊಸತನು ಇಟ್ಟ, ಸಿಂಪಿಯಲಿ ಮುತ್ತನು ಇಟ್ಟ, ಹಳತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊಸತನು ಇಟ್ಟ, ಸಿಂಪಿಯಲಿ ಮುತ್ತನು ಇಟ್ಟ, ಭಕ್ತಿಯಲಿ ನೆಮ್ಮದಿ ಇಟ್ಟ ವೆಂಕಟ ಮುಕ್ತಿ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ಭಕ್ತಿಯಲಿ ನೆಮ್ಮದಿ ಇಟ್ಟ ವೆಂಕಟ ಮುಕ್ತಿ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ವೆಂಕಟ ಮುಕ್ತಿ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ತಾಯಿಯಲಿ ಮಮತೆಯ ನಿಟ್ಟ ತಂದೆಯಲಿ ಜ್ಞಾನವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ವೇದಗಳು ನಿಜ ನುಡಿ ಒಲುಗೈದ ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ತಾಯಿಯಲಿ ಮಮತೆಯ ನಿಟ್ಟ ತಂದೆಯಲಿ ಜ್ಞಾನವ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ವೇದಗಳು ನಿಜ ನುಡಿ ಒಲುಗೈದ ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ವೆಂಕಟ ಸತ್ಯ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ವೆಂಕಟ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ರೂಪ. ವೆಂಕಟ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ರೂಪ. ವೆಂಕಟ ಆನಂದ ರೂಪ. ವೆಂಕಟ ಆನಂದ ರೂಪ. ವೆಂಕಟ ಮುಕ್ತಿ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. ವೆಂಕಟ ಮುಕ್ತಿ ಸ್ವರೂಪ. Namo Ramana. We will now have a short self-enquiry session and a sharing by Sri Ujwal Jagadeesh.
ध्यायेत् शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वान्नवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं रमणेश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितं ध्यायेत् रमणेश्वरं ध्यायेत् रमणेश्वरम्. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. In this part of the satsang, where we will practice self-enquiry, let us read from the Upadesa of Bhagavan. We are reading from the book Guru Vachaka Kovai, written by Muruganar Swami, who poetically compiles Bhagavan's teachings. And the verse that has been chosen for today is form, verse number 656. Those who say that the reality has no form are those who do not know the reality. For those who say that the reality has no form are those who do not know the reality. For the form of the sage, Sahaja Nishta, who correctly knows and abides in the reality's self, the nature of which is like the all-pervading nature of space, is verily the form of the reality. Know this. Here, Muruganar Swami is telling, for the form of the sage, Sahaja Nishta, who correctly knows and abides in the reality self, the nature of which is like the all-pervading nature of the space, is verily the form of the reality. Know this. Sri Muruganar gives an explanation. Though this verse, Sri Bhagavan disproves that saying, the reality has no form. How? Since the sage, Sahaja Nishta, who has known the reality as it is none other than the reality. He himself in the very form of that reality. That is what is meant by saying Jnani himself is self. Sri Muruganar here refers to Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, verse 18, in which Sri Krishna says that the Jnani is Atma. Once again, I'll read the explanation by Murugana Swami. Though this verse, Sri Bhagavan disproves that saying, the reality has no form. How? Since the sage Sahajanishta, who has known the reality as it is none other than the reality. He himself is the very form of that reality. That is what is meant by saying Jnani himself is self. Sri Muruganar here refers to the Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 verse 18, in which Sri Krishna says that the Jnani is Atma. Here Muruganar Swami is telling, we don't have to say that the self is formless. The self which is formless as per Bhagavan, which does not have a form, it out of its compassion takes a form of a guru, a form of a sahaja nishta, who is available to in the human form where we can relate to. There's this beautiful story of the Dakshina Murti, where the Sanat Kumara, Sanat Sujata, the four brothers, the Manasa Putras of Brahma, they are going in search of a guru who can teach them the reality. They go to Lord Brahma. Actually, it is told that Narada Maharshi takes him to Brahma, and they see Brahma is enjoying the music of Saraswati. They wonder, how can this Brahma, who is enjoying the music by his beloved wife, how can he give us Atma Jnana? So they say he cannot be our guru, and they go to Vaikuntha. There, the scene is more worse according to them. He is lying down on the serpent bed, and Mother Lakshmi is pressing his feet, and they understand he is enjoying the pleasure of being massaged by his beloved. How can he give us Atma Jnana? So they have this idea of Atma Jnani, that they should be in this format. They should be sitting in one place without enjoying anything. We have different ideas about everything. So these four seekers also had these ideas in the mind of a guru. So they went to Kailasa. What did they see there? They saw even worse scene where Shiva and Parvati have become one, and they become Ardhanarishwara Swarupa, and they are dancing, and they wonder, oh, this is the case. Now where can we get the Atma Jnana? So they are searching for a guru all over in all the places. It is Mother Parvati who tells Shiva, oh Shiva, these four seekers, they are actually seeking for a Jnani. But they don't understand that Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, they're all great jnanis. They are ever abiding in the self. But they have some concept in their mind. So it is your duty, out of your compassion, you should appear in front of them in a form that they can approve that you are a guru, and teach them the greatest truth. So hearing this request from Parvati Devi, Shiva appeared, some say in the Manas Sarovar, some we say that he appeared in Arunachala under the great Vata Vriksha, and there he sat down as the young guru and holding Chin Mudra in his hand and sitting in silence. And these four, Sanaka Sanandana, Sanat Kumara and Sanat Sujata, seeing this beautiful form of the Guru, they understood, oh, we have reached the Guru. And there they surrendered to that Guru and sat down. And in that silence, they had the experience of the self. So the Jnani is everywhere. You can find him everywhere. But there is, because of our ignorance that we are not able to recognize him in every form, he has to appear in some special form. So there are so many hills. Arunachala chose that hill to be Arunachala. For whose sake? It's not for Arunachala's sake. Every hill can be Arunachala for a Jnani. But for an Ajnani, he chose one special hill to manifest as himself. So in that way, out of all the forms, the Jnani chooses a form to shine forth. And when he shines forth, what is he telling us? He is telling us the only truth, that the reality does not have a form. When Ramana was singing Ramana Sadguru, everybody, the devotees wonder, oh Ramana, you are singing your own praise. And then Ramana replied, why do you consider Ramana Sadguru as this body which is only 6 feet tall? Ramana Sadguru is the Guru who is all pervading and who shines in every heart as the self. And we could see that Ramana, even in his last moments when he was getting ready to drop his body, when devotees cried, Bhagavan, don't leave us and go. And Bhagavan said, where can I go? I am here to remind us that the Jnani comes in that form to remind us that the reality is formless and we are that reality. So that reality is ever available. Whether we know it or we don't know, the reality is ever there. Just like in that story of 10 fools, even when they thought the 10th man was missing, even when they were searching, even after they found out the 10th man was always there. Similarly, the reality is always there, whether we recognize it or not. We have this mental concept that the reality should be like this or like that. Ramana says, drop that concept, because that concept is only a thought. If a thought arises, that is only a concept that we are having of the reality. That cannot be the reality. Immediately ask, for whom is this thought? For whom is this concept? And the question is, it's only for me. Then turn the attention towards the self and ask, who am I? And hold on to this question. And this question will reveal the truth of the reality. Let us practice self-enquiry for the next 10 minutes.
Namo Ramana. I now request Sri Dileep Simha to share his thoughts on self-enquiry.
Namo Ramana. Hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam brahmamatram yahamahamithi sakshat atmarupena bhati pradivishamanasasvam chinvata majjatava pavana chalanaro atmanishto bhavatum. Ramana, we will do manana of Guru Vachak Kovai verse. The topic is the chapter, the verses from the chapter Meditation on the Truth, and the topic is focusing intently on the source. Verse 783. O mind, you who wander and suffer, searching outside for happiness instead of realizing the state of liberation that is truly yourself, truly yours by right. You should know that if you travel back along the way you came, then through that path you will attain endless supreme bliss, liberation. Question. Swami, having a great desire for moksha, deliverance, and anxious to know the way thereto, I have read all sorts of books on Vedanta. They all describe it, each in a different way. I have also visited a number of learned people, and when I asked them, each recommended a different path. I got puzzled, and I have come to you. Please tell me which path to take. Bhagavan smilingly said, all right, then go the way you came. We, that is Suri Nagama and the other devotees who listened to the reply, all felt amused at this. The poor young man did not know what to say. He waited until Bhagavan left the hall and then, with a depressed look, turned to the others there appealingly and said, Gentlemen, I have come a long way with great hope and with no regard for the expenses or discomfort, out of my ardent desire to know the way to moksha, liberation. It is fair to tell me, is it fair to tell me to go the way I came? Is this such a huge joke? Thereupon one of them said, no, sir, it is no joke. It is the most appropriate reply to your question. Bhagavan's teaching is that the enquiry, who am I, is the easiest path to moksha. You asked him which way I should go, and his saying, go the way you came, meant that if you investigate and pursue the path from which that I came, you will attain moksha. This has been documented in letters from Sri Ramanashramam on the 2nd December 1945. The beauty of the reality and the beauty of Bhagavan's teaching is that the liberty, the moksha, which is one's own true nature, is verily available to all of us. Like the necklace that one had worn and had forgotten about it. And with the clear bhavana that I have kept it somewhere, with a clear or with a strong bhavana that I have kept it somewhere and I have to find it. We go on searching for that necklace in every other place, looking for it, and with clear intent, like the young man here, very clearly intended to find the necklace, find that moksha. It is only when like Bhagavan points back to that necklace already being there verily on the neck, on one's own neck. In similar way, the self, which is the true liberation, is verily our nature and is available. But the mind has created a strong intent to find it outside in various names and forms, in various experiences. And as Ujwalji was very beautifully saying, it has created a concept of how it should be or how it would be. And it is looking for such a concept to be available outside. And it is going to strive and strive and strive to find in that way, to find in that objects, to find like the one who would strive and strive to find that necklace. In a similar way, when somebody says the necklace is in your very neck, is that the one you are looking for? And then all the efforts drop off. In a very similar way, this effort of ours through the mind to locate what moksha is in all the objects and all the concepts that we might have learned from many books, heard from many sources, all of that has to come to some sort of a peaking to let go that whole effort. Something similar to how Buddha struggled and one day he was not clear about what else to do, and then the truth came shining forth. Essentially, the mind has to get back to the source. It is, as long as it is trying to know, as long as it is trying to do, of course it is looking for the lost needle outside somewhere, and not in the place that it has lost it. And until it recognizes that error, that this very act of searching outside, not understanding that it has lost the needle inside, it would never give up that effort of looking. In a similar way, when the mind recognizes its error, it gives up everything. But in that path of recognition, the self-enquiry is the most important sadhana, because every time we are running out very unconsciously, trying to look for the needle through thoughts, Bhagavan has given us a conscious light of enquiry, to inquire to whom is this. Otherwise, we would be simply running out, looking for happiness, looking for that source of moksha outside, happiness outside. It is Bhagavan's love that has given us the enquiry. To whom is this? Which puts a break, though we are ignorant that we have lost the needle inside, but looking for it in the outside. In a similar way, looking at our ignorance with lot of love and compassion, Bhagavan has given this enquiry, to whom is this? And by doing that, by raising that question consciously, we stop running out in this, turning the mind outward, and recognize that I am the one who is having this thought. So we come to the source of all this thing, the drive behind outside going, which is the I. Bhagavan says, once the I rises, all that we see, the manifestations that we see, is all of the I only, of that I only. We can recognize this very clearly in Bhagavan, when Bhagavan talks about the dream. When the I rises from the deep sleep, and with it, the whole of the manifestation rises. And therefore, the mind or the I, whichever we may want to say, it is all nothing but the same stuff. So we come back to the root, the I, who goes on creating, imagining lot of divisions. And further, Bhagavan asking this question, who am I? And trying to find the source of the I, really gives the remedy. The remedy, which is not even intellectual, which is something beyond. The I is taken back to the source. It is taken back to the root. The enquiry, who am I? What cannot be removed by any intellectual understanding, what cannot be removed by any concept. By taking the I through the question, who am I, to the source, Bhagavan gives the taste of the necklace, being with naturally available. But we may, that is how he again and again, through all thoughts, goes and takes us back inside to the necklace that we are wearing, or to the needle, to look for the needle inside the house where we have lost it. And with repeated practice, there comes this clarity. But through the enquiry, to whom is this, who am I, we may find, is this a joke, this question, to whom is this, who am I? There is nobody to answer it. And I am not finding any answer to it. Is this a big joke? Will I ever go somewhere with this? Like the young man had this puzzle, we may all have it. Because the consciousness is still driven by the ego, or the ego is still having the concept that moksha is some beautiful place or a beautiful state, something that it will be there to recognize and enjoy. And therefore, it cannot understand a state where it would not be. Therefore, it will be bewildered to think that, what is this enquiry? Is this going to really take me there? Is this of any help to me? But like the senior devotees there, who told with lot of love and compassion how it is really a remedy. It alone is the true remedy, because no intellectual understanding, no amount of reading the books and everything, they may all be wonderful aid, but nothing equals taking the dip in the self, taking the mind back to the root. Even for a trice, it may sound like that when we inquire, who am I? Maybe for a trice, but nothing is equal to it. That's why Bhagavan says it goes a long way. This inquiry goes a long way. Even if we inquire one thought and take it back to the source, It goes a long way, says Bhagavan. Initially, the intellect-driven mind, the egoistic approach of oneself, that one will be able to know, one will be able to recognize, one would be able to enjoy that moksha, the state of moksha, may not like this enquiry, which is not giving anything concrete to hold on to. But the very question of inquiring, to whom is this, who am I, really takes us and makes us dip or lose, takes the mind back to the source, to that no mind state. Even it may be for a trice. And more we consciously practice this, there comes a very clear understanding, a clear recognition that one can stay, one is there with or without the mind. In fact, one is not dependent on anything. One's true nature, here and now, is that of freedom, of that liberation. Like the necklace always being available, one feels the idea of being bound was all of the false idea. The reality was that one always remained free. And that recognition Bhagavan brings about through the inquiry, to whom is this, who am I? So, focusing intently on the source is the only solution. No amount of reading, no, they may all be wonderful aid. There is no doubt about it. But nothing comes to real help, or nothing comes, it is like invoking the grace itself when we go back to the source. That's what Bhagavan is trying to say. When we focus intently on the source, it is really invoking that source, that grace. And that grace, what it can do is amazing. It can break open all the concepts that we are dearly holding on to and relieve us of all of it and make the mind get back to or reside at the source. Therefore, this meditation on the truth or this self-enquiry is such a direct path which has been given by Bhagavan so compassionately for all of us, because he understands that getting back to the source alone is possible for all of us, because that is the natural truth, and therefore no other intellectual concepts or anything may be required. This is the only thing that if we keep on doing it, initially it may sound like as though this is a joke, but if we keep on practicing it diligently, consistently, the mind will slowly and steadily will no more be mischievous, no more will be dragging us away, but more and more starts to enjoy the source from which it has arisen. And that makes us more and more clearly recognize that we are verily the moksha, the freedom. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramananjali.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing by Sri Ujwal Jagadeesh.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We are meditating on the verses of Arunachala We move on to the meditation on the third verse of the 9 gems of hymns on Arunachala. Arunachalattiluru Karunakara Paraman Arunaravinda Padame அருணாச்சலத்திலுரு கருணாகர பரமன் அருணாரவிந்த பதமே. அருணாச்சலத்திலுரு கருணாகர பரமன் அருணாரவிந்த பதமே. பொருள் நாடு சுற்றுமுடு வருணாதி பற்றியுளம் அருணாடலற்ற நிதமும். பொருள் நாடு சுற்றுமுடு வருணாதி பற்றியுளம் அருணாடலற்ற நிதமும். தெருள் நாடுளத்தி நினல் அருணாடி நிற்குமவர் இருநாசமுற்ற புவி மேல். அருணாருண கதிரின் அருணாளு முற்று சுக வருணாலயத்தில் இழிவார். அருணாச்சலத்திலுரு கருணாகர பரமன் அருணாரவிந்த பதமே. This verse has been translated into Kannada as ಹೊನ್ನು ಹೆಣ್ಣು ಮಣ್ಣು ಇದ ತೋರೆಸುವ ತೆರೆಯುತ ಕಣ್ಣು. ಹೊನ್ನು ಹೆಣ್ಣು ಮಣ್ಣು ಇದ ತೋರೆಸುವ ತೆರೆಯುತ ಕಣ್ಣು. ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಚರಣವನಂಬಲು ಭಯ ನಮಗಾವುದು ಇನ್ನು. ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಚರಣವನಂಬಲು ಭಯ ನಮಗಾವುದು ಇನ್ನು. ಹೊನ್ನು ಹೆಣ್ಣು ಮಣ್ಣು ಇದ ತೋರೆಸುವ ತೆರೆಯುತ ಕಣ್ಣು. In this verse, Bhagavan is telling Arunachala, in Arunachala manifests merciful God, the greatest. His lotus feet, sun red, those who seek. To those who seek, his lotus feet, sun red. And Arunachala, in Arunachala manifests merciful God, the greatest. Shunning kin, objects and earth, color, creed and so forth, with a heart of clear vision, dropping all delusion. The good folks who seek grace alone, shunning kin, object and earth, color, creed and so forth, with a heart of clear vision, dropping all delusion. The good folks who seek grace alone, their dark ignorance annulled, while living in this very world, attaining eternal grace. That's akin to young sun rays. They drown in a sea of bliss. The good folks who seek grace alone, their dark ignorance annulled, while living in this very world, attain eternal grace. That's akin to young sun rays. They drown in a sea of bliss. So Bhagavan is telling us that in Arunachala, the greatest, the merciful, the compassionate one is residing. And he is with his feet is so sweet and so bright, like the sun, like lotus feet. They are reddish like the sun, and his feet is so soft like the lotus. And what does he do? For those who shun, who say, I don't want this porul naad shutram, That is, Purul is the wealth, objective wealth that we think, this is going to give us happiness. If they are ready to shun that, if they are ready to shun the Nadu is the objects, like the Nadu is the place. If they are ready to drop that Mannu, and if they are able to drop the attachment to their relationship, the kin, which is translated in Kannada as Hennu, if they are ready to drop the Hunnu, Mannu, and the Hennu in that order, if they are ready to shun them and even drop the identity that I belong to this group, I belong to this caste, I belong to this place, this is my people, this is what I am. So if they're ready to even drop that identification, for them he gives them the bliss, the ocean of bliss. And to that, what will happen if such devotees who only seek you, O Arunachala, in the heart, for them all the darkness is destroyed here and now. When they are here in this world, their ignorance is destroyed. And just like how the young sun makes the heart blossom, the Arunachala shines like the young, beautiful sun. Young sun, when we say, it is the sun in the dawn. It is not very, very scorching afternoon sun. It is, you feel like when you see a sun rise, you feel so happy. We all go to various places to see this side of the young sun rising. So Arunachala is that young sun, and he makes us drown in the sea of bliss. Ji Kameshwar Ji tells that the Tamil verse of Navamanimalai is perfection itself in form and content. In terms of form, it is pure diamond with a rolling runa sound, providing the beautiful turns with a throbbing r, ru, r, and there's one r in Tamil, and tr, patr, tr, that tr sounds, providing the flash and glitter at every turn. In terms of content, the verse outlines the state of bliss attained by the ripe seeker of the Supreme. In terms of content, the verse outlines the state of bliss attained by the ripe seeker of the Supreme. The outline is as follows. The advanced seekers who undistractedly seek the auspicious grace of the red lotus-like feet of the Lord, who is the ocean of compassion. These seekers, shunning the attachment to color, race, property, land, people, etc., turning their back to delusion, falseness of the worldly life, these seekers, having their hearts ever set on seeking clearness, purity alone, their spiritual ignorance is destroyed, and basking forever in the grace of God, which is like the rays of the rising sun, they drown, dissolving in a sea of happiness. The verse conveys the twin paths of jnana, knowledge, and bhakti, devotion. In jnana, the verse outlines the viveka, discrimination that a seeker needs. The seeker should reject the delusion of object-oriented outward worldliness and should constantly seek purity of heart. Also, the seeker should have deep vairagya, detachment, and renounce all attachment to the notion of I and mine. One should renounce all notion of identification with country, race, family, ordained duties, wealth, property, etc. And in bhakti, the seeker should center his heart, mind totally on the red lotus-like feet of Lord Arunachala. Ramana is an example for such a matured, advanced seeker. Because at a very young age, we have reported one beautiful incident which happened in Madurai, where Ramana, when he went to the Alagar Koil, then he had tasted this sweet Pongal Prasadam that was given, and he had this great desire. Aha, the Pongal Prasadam was so nice. It would have been so nice if I had got little more serving of this Pongal Prasadam. This was the thought that he had in the earlier visit. But in the next visit, to his surprise, there was a lot of Pongal given to them, a huge big brass plate full of Pongal. And the Pujari saw that this Ramana, who was very, very tall and very, very athletic, he called, "Come, you take this prasadam home." So he gave that brass plate to him, and he had to carry that heavy brass plate with a lot of prasadam on his head, and his neck, his shoulders, they were all paining, and he had to bring that back home. And when he brought home, nobody was interested in the prasadam. Everybody was sleepy and tired, so they all went and slept. And this lot of prasadam, then Venkatraman thought, how can I waste this prasadam? This is what I desired, and God has given me that. And how can I throw the prasadam? So I should have my share. So with great difficulty, Ramana finished his share of that prasadam. And then at that moment, he realized that no outer objects or no fulfillment of any desires in the worldly setup, it is going to give us happiness. It is only going to give us sorrow. So he had understood this truth and had become a great Vairagi at that point, at a very, very young age. And talking about his devotion, what can we talk about his devotion? He was born with the constant remembrance of Arunachala. There was no other thought other than Arunachala. And he had to enact this play of winning over the death and absorbing himself in the self. And he says, after that moment of enlightenment, he was perpetually absorbed in the self. Whether he was doing any work, like he was playing, going to school, eating or sitting or standing or sleeping, he was perpetually absorbed in that feeling of that power which he had discovered. And that feeling is none other than Arunachala. He was ever immersed in that experience of Arunachala. So he was not seeking anything else. After that moment, even when food was given to him, even when people were called him to play, he did all the work without great excitement or sorrow. He just did all the duties, but he was immersed in that experience of Arunachala. So for such a devotee who has shunned all the worldly desires and who was even in between, we see that how he did not have any attachment to his race or his caste or his religion. We could see that he had a friend called Sabjan, and he used to take Sabjan to Tirupurakundram, the Murugan temple in near Madurai. And there Sabjan used to say, I don't want to come to inside the temple. They may not allow me. But Ramana used to say, come. There is no difference in God. There's only one God. But each one prays in different ways. It is in another verse in Arunachala Ashtakam, he says, Arunachala, you have manifested in different faiths and different religion in different forms, but you are that one power, you are that one light, and you are like that, the Sharad, you are the connecting the thread in a mala where there are different motis, there are different pearls. You are like that connecting sutram, that connecting thread. So he had even destroyed that identification with one's own clan or one's own caste and religion. He had understood that it's the only one truth. For such a great devotee, Arunachala bestows the sea of bliss. And we could see that Ramana was embodiment of peace and bliss in whatever condition he was in, whether it was in the Patal Lingam where the vermins were eating up his thighs, or whether up on the hill where there was no water, there was no food to eat, or even when he was troubled by people on the hill, or even when there was all comforts at Ramanashramam, and even when his body was suffering from the dreadful sarcoma in his last moments, he was ever in the bliss. And that bliss was untouched by anything that could happen to his body or anything which could happen around. For Ramana showed that it is possible to experience that bliss here and now, even when we are in this bhumi. He says, Jivastu Daivika. To prove this, he showed us the path that Arunachala is ever available to each one of us, and he is ready to bestow that ocean of bliss. Only thing that we need to do is to not physically shun, but mentally, when we are sitting for sadhana, we need to understand that none of these, that the Purul, Nadu and Shutram, and then Varunadi, Patru will ever give us any joy. The only joy is our own true nature. And with that faith, if we turn within, Arunachala will bestow us with the bliss and peace. This is what Ramana is telling in this verse. Let us continue meditating on this beautiful verse in the next satsang. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanavai.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of verses from Ramana Ashtottaram written by Vishwanatha Swami. This will be shared by Dr. Sarada.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self, manifest as Ramana, we in this part of the satsang are meditating on the Ramana Ashtottara Shatanamavali. And in that Ramana Ashtottara Shatanamavali, we were meditating on the Nama Dakshinabhimukhaya Namaha, one who is facing the south. Bhagavan's ashram, Sri Ramanashramam, is just adjacent to the Dakshinamurti temple at Tiruvannamalai, and we find it is on the southern face of Arunachala. Arunachala is facing south over there, and that is where Bhagavan is situated. So he is Dakshina Bhimukaya Namaha. And he was equated in the name, just one previous name, Dakshinasya Nibhaya Namaha. So he is like Dakshinamurti, Dhiraya Namaha, one who is absolutely firm in his self-abidance, one who has the greatest courage to be abiding firmly in the self. As Ujwal was just telling us, to have been able to cast away Purul, Nadu, Sutram, everything. He cast away his Sutram, his entire environment in which he had grown up. Everything that he knew about until that day, he just cast aside on the 29th of August, 1896, when he left home with that note, which he did not even sign except for a dash. So he left everything. He left the Sutram. He didn't have any Purul. So in another verse of Navamanimalai, Bhagavan says, Avi Udal Kondai. Annamalai Adiyenai Anda Andre Avi Udal Kondai. You actually took over my spirit and my body, he says. And another devotee asked him, Bhagwan, normally they say, Udal Purul Avi. You took over my body, you took over all my wealth, and you took over my sense of individuality, the Avi, the I, the ego. And Bhagwan smiled and said, I did not have any portal for him to take over. I didn't own anything. But he did own for a short time something. And that was what was given to him by Muthukrishna Bhagavatar when he pawned his earrings. And then he had a few pennies with him. And he had the food that was given by the lady of the house. But even that he threw away into the Ayyankulam tank on the 1st of September when he reached Arunachala and told, Father, I have come. But of course, in this verse of Navamanimalai, he says, Porul Nadu Sutramudu, for those who have given up everything, including all the belongings and the relatives and all kith and kin, Sutram. To such a one, Arunachala shines as the glory of the self, or reveals himself as the self. So this was the Dakshina Senibha. He was Dhira, and then we came to Dakshina Bhimukhaya Namaha, one who is facing the south, one who is Dakshinamurti. And we have many famous instances of Bhagavan revealing the truth in silence. We have Paul Brunton wondering whether Bhagavan's silence could be just a facade, and then being drawn into it. Paul Brunton is the most famous instance of the mind being silenced in Bhagavan's presence. And then we have another instance which Vishwanath Swami himself has reported of a Shivaratri, at the beginning of which Bhagavan was asked to explain the Dakshinamurti Ashtakam. And Bhagavan conceded and said, sure. And the night had passed. And there had been only silence. But people had not known that the night had passed. But in the morning, they, without awareness of time, suddenly when they became aware of the morning, they asked Bhagavan, you had said you would explain the Dakshinamurti Stotram. And Bhagavan said, that is what I have been doing. The Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam. So that Mauna Vyakya of Bhagavan is known to everyone. In fact, everyone says Bhagavan never spoke. They go to that extreme that Bhagavan never spoke. That is not the case. In the early years, he did maintain physical silence as well. And there too, he made an exception. In later years, in the later part of the first few years of his stay at Arunachala, he has spoken to Parani Swami, giving him instructions about the Adhyatma Ramayanam in Malayalam. But Bhagavan's silence was predominant. And we have the episode of even monkeys being told by him to sit in that silence, to drink in that silence. And it is said that when one of the monkeys moved away or began to feel disturbed, Bhagavan asked, enna rajyam kolla poradhu? Which kingdom are you afraid of losing that you have become restless? Which kingdom is being stolen away from you that you have become restless? Which kingdom is it that we have really lost? It is our natural kingdom. But we think we are losing many other kingdoms. There is something which is now called, I think it's called FOMO or something like that. Fear of missing out. FOMO, fear of missing out. I don't want to feel left out. What was happening there? What was happening here? So that makes us move out of our natural state and seek the kingdom of happiness elsewhere. But who is Bhagavan? Says Vishwanatha Swami. He is Swaraje Namaha. He is the kingdom of bliss. He is the natural kingdom. He is the Swarajya. Not only is he established in that Swarajya, ever established in that Swarajya, because of which he had no other need whatsoever. He did not have to seek anything whatsoever because he was already king of his own kingdom, emperor of his own natural kingdom of bliss. So he didn't have to seek anything. So not only is he the emperor of that kingdom, Jnana Nattarashaha Nindrada. So Satyamangalam Venkatramayar calls him the king of the kingdom of Jnana. Jnana Natta Arasu. But Bhagavan also says, you will be the king. You will be the king of Oru Kudai Nidar Kove, he says in Arunachala Ashtakam. In Raham Puram Iruvina Iral Janmam Inbu Tunbu Irul Oli Irungane Nichayam Mandrada Mandraha Machalama. There he says, I dances. But then in the earlier verse he says, Oru Kudai Nidar Kove. You will be the single monarch, the single monarch of all the universe, the entire universe. That is the Swarajya, Swaraje Namaha. One established ever in the Swayam. One who is king of himself. And Bhagavan says, how he felt that sense of being an emperor. He says when in the early years, when he used to stay for a period in Arunagirinatha temple, before that when he was staying in the big temple, in two phases, Bhagavan has begged for food in the streets of the Ramanacentre. And how he used to go was only in the night time. In the night time, he used to go, and Bhagavan was very shy actually. I think like the self. Self is also very shy. The self does not reveal itself if there is a crowd in our mind. If there is even one other thought in our mind, the self will not reveal itself. It is only when no one else is there, when no other thought is there, in that night of stillness, the self reveals itself. So Bhagavan also would go beg for alms in the night. And there was a street, I think there were 1 or 2 streets in that Agraharam, and he would make it a point in his great compassion to beg at a different house each night. And people would be waiting for him to come. It is such a blessing to feed such a one who has just one meal in a day. It is said that when one feeds such a one feeds the entire universe at the same time. And here is one who is not at all concerned about food, but he would go for the maintenance of the body. He says, when there is thought, awareness of the body, then rent has to be paid. And he would go and he would stand in front of some house and he would clap his hands. And when he would clap his hands, they would bring the food and he would take it. Whatever was given, enough for only his palms. And so Ganapati Muni says, Karatamara Sena Supatravata. Supatra, the beautiful vessel was the lotus palms of his, which came together to take the food. And Bhagavan says he would eat like that itself, he would eat it directly from his palm, whatever was given. And he would then wipe his palms on his head and move on. And he said, I felt like an emperor. That food which I ate, I felt like an emperor. Swaraje Nama, one who is established in the self. Because the entire universe is his. There is no universe apart from him. There is no universe apart from the self. There is nothing apart from the self. So one who is established in the self is emperor of all that is. So he is hailed as Swaraje Namaha. And Vishwanatha Swami hails him as that Swarajya to which we have to return. Subraya Sharma often says, the knower of the self, it is said in the scriptures, the knower of the self is verily the self. The knower of the self is not a knower of the self. The knower of the self is the self, because there is no duality in the self. So one who knows the self cannot remain independent of the self as a knower. And that is why it is said, Jnana Varjita Ajnana Hina Chit. There is no knowledge also in self-knowledge, in the sense of objective knowledge. So he is the very self. So he is called Swaraje Namaha. Our Swarajya is him. Our freedom is him. We are in bondage. Bhagavan also supported the movement of Swaraj for our Bharata, for our Bharata Desha. He supported that Swarajya also, the external Swarajya also, the external freedom, because it is important to have that freedom. And he said of Mahatma Gandhi that when he was asked, what is it that is the message that you have for Gandhiji? Rajendra Prasad and Jamnalal Bajaj came to Bhagavan's presence, spent some time there. They were sent by Mahatma Gandhi for Rajendra Prasad to recuperate his spirit, to recuperate his health as well, inner and external. And at the end of that visit, they asked Bhagavan, what is the message for Mahatma? And he said, when heart speaks to heart, there is no need of words. He was a spirit behind everything, because he is the Swarajya. He is the Swarat. Swarat, he is the king of the self itself, the kingdom of the self, and he is the very self. So that movement was also supported, but the real Swarajya is what Bhagavan is calling us back to, our own being, our own truth. So there's nothing else to be lost in that we are searching for in this world, that we are seeking. There is no kingdom that is really going to be lost, because no kingdom is ours. Externally, nothing belongs to us. If we are this body, the body itself doesn't belong to us. It is constituted of the elements, and it belongs to the elements. The breath doesn't belong to us. It comes in and goes out. It comes in and goes out. It doesn't even stay with us unless we hold it for a few seconds or a few minutes, or even hours. If people hold it, it has to be held. It is not ours. It will go. The moment it is allowed to go, naturally it will go out. The breath doesn't belong to us. What of our thoughts? Are they our own? Dileep often says, we don't know what is going to be the next thought in our mind, but we claim that they are our thoughts. Therefore, Bhagavan says, inquire. Who is the master of these thoughts? If you think you are the master of the thoughts, then inquire as to whether you are your own master. Who is this I who is claiming to be the master of thoughts, who is claiming to be the creator of thoughts, who is claiming to be the owner of the body, and then going on to claim that he or she is the owner of so many things in this world? What is this? It's only a great pretense. The real kingdom, which is ours, is the kingdom of the self. Get back to this kingdom. Don't lose out on this Swarajya, is Bhagavan's call to every one of us. He's calling us from within, shining as the self. He is calling us in so many ways by creating external circumstances. He says the Guru creates external circumstances which give us opportunities to question the validity of all that we do and all that we think, and to question the validity of this so-called independent entity, the I. And thus, he draws us back to our own true nature, to recognize that he is the Urupudai Nidar Kovi. He is the Swarajya. Om Namo Bhagavate.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Aksharamanamalai by Srimati V.Radha.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. பொடியான் மயக்கியன் போதத்தை பறித்து உன் போதத்தை காட்டினை அருணாச்சலா. போக்கும் வரவுமில் பொது வெளியில் அருள் போராட்டம் காட்டருணாச்சலா. பௌதிக மாமுடல் பற்றற்று நாளும் முன் பவிசு கண்டுர அருள் அருணாச்சலா. மலை மருந்திட நீ மலை திடவோ அருள் மலை மருந்தாயோடிர் அருணாச்சலாம். மானம் கொண்டுருபவர் மானத்தை அழித்தபிமானம் இல்லாதோளிர் அருணாச்சலாம். விஞ்சிடில் கெஞ்சிடும் கொஞ்சவரிவனி அன்பஞ்சியாதருள் என்னை அருணாச்சலாம். மிகாமல் இல்லாமல் மாகாற்றலை கலமாகாமல் காத்தருள் அருணாச்சலாம். முடியடி காணா முடிவிடுத்தனை முடிவிட கடனிலை அருணாச்சலாம். மூங்கிலின் மூங்காட்டு முகுரம் மகாதனை தூக்கி அணைந்தருள் அருணாச்சலாம். மெய்யகத்தின் மனமின் மலரணையில் நம்மை கலந்திட அருள் அருணாச்சலாம். மேன்மேல் தாழ்ந்திடு மெல்லியர் சேர்ந்து நீ மேன்மையுற்றனையன் அருணாச்சலாம். மைமய நீ தருள்மையினல் உனது உண்மை வசமாக்கினை அருணாச்சலாம். அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ 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 அருணாச்சலா. 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 அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி. அக்ஷரமணமாலை வாழி. நமோ ரமணா.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the Ashtottara puja to Bhagavan. We will conclude with the Ashtottara puja. The Ashtottara puja will happen at Sri Dileep Simha's place at his altar. The puja will be performed by Sri Dileep Simha. The Ashtottaram will be chanted by Prarthana and Vaibhavji and Revathi Shankar. We conclude today's satsang with the Arati to Bhagavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
नमो रमणा भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तम् गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासे नमः ॐ शेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्ड संविदाकाराय नमः ॐ महौजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्हितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले तप्तविद्योदयाय नमः ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः ॐ तीराय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ तपोमयाय नमः ॐ उदासीनाय नमः योगिने नमः ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः ॐ कुशाकृतये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तवक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासुतहास्यश्रीमण्डितानन्दमण्डलाय नमः समासीनाय नमः ॐ चूडिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणात्मिकाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजितचलाकृतये नमः ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः ॐ पूर्णाय नमः ॐ रसिताचलताण्डवाय नमः ॐ गम्भीराय नमः ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः ॐ अव्यक्तवसाय नमः ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिधाय नमः धीराय नमः ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः ॐ स्वराजे नमः ॐ महर्षये नमः ॐ भगवते नमः ॐ ईद्याय नमः
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः ॐ विमलाय नमः ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः ॐ आप्ताय नमः ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः ॐ समदृशे नमः ॐ सत्याय नमः ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्छिन्नसंशयाय नमः ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः ॐ सौम्याय नमः ॐ आत्मवते नमः ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादघसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ हृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगभिषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणभगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजलिं प्राप्य तद् दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शनसुखमङ्गलमुखसकलजीवहितसम्मुख ब्रह्मसङ्गिये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानन्दपुष्ट परममहर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಬದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಗಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की।
Jai